UFC 302 is coming up soon, and today, guys, I'm going to be breaking down every fight in the card. I'm going to be breaking them down as deep as I can possibly go. I'm going to be talking about which fighters I want to win. I'm going to be talking about the betting odds that I like for each fighter. We're going to be covering everything to do with this card. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I'm your guy with too many YouTube channels, and guys, something I forgot to mention is timestamps will be there in the description, pinned comment, chapter bar if you'd like to skip to any particular fight. But before we get into it, though, I do need to apologize. I don't know if you guys can hear it. I'm deep breathing a little bit, and sometimes my voice will get a little bit chalky. I'm still recovering from being under the weather, but I'm doing the best that I can over here. So with that being said, long intro, my apologies. Let's get into the first fight for today, that being Nyamjargal Tumendemberel versus Lima. Now, I know that I'm probably pronouncing the Mr. Art of Knockout's name very poorly, but I promise you, I do know what I'm talking about. This guy came from the road to the UFC. He is a very, very dangerous fighter, seemingly, but the problem is he's 8-0 over here. He has both power, he has knockout power, he has submissions. This guy seems to be the perfect package, but the problem is he hasn't necessarily taken on anybody of significance at this time, but he does seem like he has a lot of promise in the division, but he's taking on a guy who I am very high on, that being Lima. What's interesting to note over here is both fighters are 8-0, but I feel like that from what I've seen from Lima, man, just in his last couple performances, he has just impressed me like no other contender has impressed me before. This guy is an insane striker with magnificent creativity, and I understand that I'm saying a lot more about Lima than I am saying about Tumendemberel. I apologize. I don't mean to be disrespectful. I promise you guys I know what I'm talking about over here. Some of these names are just very difficult to pronounce. So if some of you have been clearing that up in the comments, by the way, some of the pronunciations for the names, I would really appreciate if you guys continue doing that. But anyways, Lima, great striker, has a ground game to back it up. What I do love about his ground game is he is very, very active even off of his back. Even off his back, he'll throw everything from omoplatas to vertical elbows. The only problem in his game is he lacks takedown defense. But even when he gets taken down, though, I don't know if it's necessarily a problem, but he doesn't actively try to get up, but he's very active off of his back. So I don't know how I want to look at that, because he can really damage you from the bottom position. You know, like, he is a very, very well-rounded fighter, and I've always said that his kicks have reminded me of Edson Barboza, where in the sense he just throws absolutely everything into his shots. Can you guys tell that I'm high on Lima? I love watching this guy fight. It's a pleasure to watch him fight, and I'm really, really high off of him after his last performance against Igor Severino. Now, it's so funny to see that you actually see biting there. Disqualification, biting. How often do you see that? It's crazy. But regardless, it was an insane fight, back and forth. And in this fight against Igor Severino, he really proved, in my opinion, that he belongs in the UFC. Because before Igor Severino got let go from the UFC, I also thought that Igor Severino was a very, very talented prospect coming in. But he showed a little bit of everything. He didn't necessarily have adversity, but he overcame a really, really tough fight against a really, really great opponent. So, guys, I'm sorry. I know I'm glazing Lima a lot over here. I've just been very high on the guy for a little while. I need to see more from Nyamjargal before I end up picking him against a guy like Lima. I know they're both only 8-0, but I like what I've seen from the tests of Lima. He's passed it all from flying colors. He is a very confident pick of mine on this card. Now, in saying that, Nyamjargal does have some serious threat to finish the fight. Again, he has finished fights in the past. He can certainly finish Lima over here, and he's looked great on the road to UFC too, and now he's actually getting a shot in the UFC, which is really cool. They're similar in age. It's a little bit of a reach advantage for Nyamjargal, but I think Lima will make up for it. My pick is going to be Lima, and for who I'd like to win the fight, guys, can you guess? I know I'm glazing Lima like crazy over here, but I'm interested to see the odds. Guys, before this video, I haven't looked at the odds at all, but let's bring you over to OddsJam over here, and you can see that Lima is about 2-1 favorite over here. I don't mind that at all. I think that's proper odds, and I'm seriously considering hitting that. Let's keep going up the card, though, over to the next fight, that being Niko Price versus Alex Morono. Now, guys, I'm a big fan of both guys. I'm particularly a really big fan of Alex Morono. I've always really liked him as a person. I've always really respected him as a talent, but the problem is Alex Morono, I think he is officially past his prime. You have Niko Price, who's a good striker with Pretty sneaky submissions. He does rely a little bit heavy on out-harding his opponents, but I don't know if he's necessarily better than his 15-7 record, but he's taking on tough guys. He's a really, really gritty fighter. He's good at what he does. Alex Morono is a very clean striker with nice movement and very good grappling to back it up, but sometimes Alex Morono doesn't always show up, and that's shown recently. If you take a look at his recent wins and his recent losses, okay, he was winning the Santiago Ponzinibbio fight. I'll give him that one. But in this last 3 performances, the Tim Means performance, the Joaquin Buckley performance, and the Court McGee performance, he has 2 wins over there. But Alex Morono seemed to have taken a step back. I don't know what it is. If it's his age, I don't know if he's injured. I don't know if the motivation is different because I know Alex Morono has a lot going on outside the cage. I don't know what's going on, but Alex Morono is not the same Alex Morono that I saw against Matthew Semmelsberger and beyond. I don't know what happened, but Alex Morono, I do believe, at 34 years old almost, is out of his prime. He hasn't shown up. He's been a little bit inconsistent. He's shown up slow. He's been getting taken damage in his fights, but Niko Price hasn't necessarily been the same fighter either, and that's why I think it's actually a really good matchup. You have Niko Price, who is also exiting his prime at 34 years old, almost 35 years old. He has taken some really, really rough losses. Now, the Michel Pereira loss has aged quite well, but the problem is the Robbie Lawler loss and the Phil Rowe loss. Phil Rowe isn't necessarily a bad loss to have, don't get me wrong, but losing to Robbie Lawler, I lost money on that fight, and I'm shocked that I lost money on that fight because Robbie Lawler was more than done. I believe both these fighters are out of their primes. I believe both of these fighters have missed a step. I unfortunately think that Alex Morono has lost a little bit more of a step after his last performance, and I know, like, I believe, yeah, I bet on Alex Morono against Court McGee, I'm pretty sure, but regardless, I have said that I'm never going to bet on Alex Morono again because he's showing up inconsistent, he's showing up slower. I don't like the Alex Morono that has been showing up as of recently. Now, when these two actually match up, I believe that Alex Morono, on his best day, would dance around Niko Price. I don't think this fight would go to the ground, but it'd be interesting if it did go to the ground because I would give the edge to Alex Morono, but on the feet, I think Alex Morono would dance around Niko Price, but the problem is, I could see that happening even just now, but Niko Price has those sneaky elbows. He has those sneaky shots that can catch Alex Morono, and Alex Morono has been getting caught quite a bit in his recent fights. So this is a really tough fight to break down. I'm going to pick Alex Morono, but for betting, I am not going to bet on this fight. I'm done betting on Alex Morono, but guys, honestly, for who I hope wins the fight, again, I hope Alex Morono gets it done. He is up there in one of my favorite fighters. I really like him as a person. I really, really respect him as a fighter and the guy behind the fighter. I hope he gets a job done. I just, unfortunately, don't have faith in Alex Morono anymore. I used to sit here and always talk about how underrated he was, how he's always flying under the radar, and I don't feel that way anymore. Anyways, let's take a look at the betting side of things over here. You can see Alex Morono is a pretty good favorite over here. Niko Price sitting at a plus 215, 200 underdog. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think it should be a little bit closer to a pick'em. So if you're thinking about an underdog opportunity, I don't mind Niko Price. But for betting, I would honestly, I'd stay away from this fight no matter what the prop is, no matter what the money line bet is. I would stay away from this one completely. Let's move up the card though, guys, to the fight that I think that I might be looking forward to more than any other fight on the card. We have Roman Kopylov taking on Cesar Almeida. If this isn't a banger, I don't know what is. You have Roman Kopylov and Cesar Almeida. These two kickboxers going at it. I can't wait to see it. I'm a fan of both guys. I'm a fan of Cesar Almeida since I saw him in the Contender Series. I had to go back and actually take a look at some of his other fights because I wasn't familiar with Cesar Almeida. And once I went to go back, I was like, hey, this guy seems to have like the perfect package, to be honest with you. And then he's done nothing but prove to be the perfect package. I'll start with Cesar Almeida. Honestly, the dude has everything. The UFC will advertise Cesar Almeida as a kickboxer, but he can keep up with pretty much anywhere the fight goes. The only issue we've seen from Cesar Almeida so far is his takedown defense. Now, I understand that is a big issue, but Cesar Almeida has gotten past the obstacles in front of him so far. Roman Kopylov probably isn't going to be the guy to take him down. Roman Kopylov is a four-time world champion in Russian hand-to-hand combat, and he proves it in the octagon. He is a fantastic striker with beautiful power, beautiful timing, and he has takedown defense to back it up. He's coming off of a loss to Anthony Hernandez, but the problem is, how much do you really want to take a look at this loss? Because he did take this on short notice, but even in this fight, the striking was crisp, the takedown defense was good, he was patient as usual. Anthony just ended up getting him to the ground and got a choke quickly, and Anthony Hernandez is a great fighter in himself, so I don't know how much I want to put into this loss of Roman Kopylov. I almost want to give him one more loss before I kind of hop off the train, but I'm still on the Roman Kopylov train. This dude is patient, he's powerful, he's beautiful at what he does, but so is Cesar Almeida. So Cesar Almeida burst onto the scene in the Contender Series and showed an incredible display of skill, and he showed like everything from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, from kickboxing to heart. He literally showed every aspect of MMA. He did fantastic damage from ground and pound as well. He showed that he is not just a kickboxer coming to the UFC. Now, problem is this Dylan Budka fight, okay? He had some issues in this fight, and honestly, at times, it was very worrying in this fight, and it's against Dylan Budka too. And I'm not saying that Dylan Budka sucks or anything, don't get me wrong. I'm saying, like, you're not taking on a guy like Roman Kopylov over here, but in the second round, he did a great job at staying on his feet and doing damage in the clinch while Budka was trying to take him down. So the takedown defense is something that Cesar Almeida definitely still needs to work on, but I think he's a very promising prospect. The only problem is, and it's a bigger problem in my opinion than the takedown defense, is he is 36 years old at this point. He hasn't shown to be 36 years old yet, but that is definitely worrying for a UFC fighter. Guys, Cesar Almeida has kickboxing experience. Roman Kopylov has experience outside of the UFC as well. Like, this is going to be a stand-up battle, and I think this fight is a lot closer than people are talking about it, because from what I've seen, a lot of people are just sitting here and picking Kopylov. I wouldn't be shocked if Cesar Almeida was the guy to explore the ground options, because again, we have seen Roman Kopylov lose that way. When these two stand, when these two bang though, I think it's a little bit closer to a pick'em fight. I'm kind of sitting over here at like a 65%, 70% for Roman Kopylov if I were to make my pick. But again, this is not one to bet on unless somebody is a very sizable underdog. I am just going to sit back and enjoy the beautiful violence that comes from Roman Kopylov and Cesar Almeida. These two going at it is going to be a fantastic display of skill, patience, power. It's going to be a beauty to watch in the striking department. But for the pick, I will be picking Roman Kopylov for who I hope wins though, man. I don't know. I like both guys a lot. I'm a fan of both guys. I almost want to pick Roman Kopylov, man. And it sucks because I really like what I've seen from Cesar Almeida so far. But let's see what the betting odds have to say about it. Okay, take a look at this. They're almost pick 'em. So what I was saying is correct. This is how I feel about the fight, guys. I feel it is a very close fight, and I'm so excited for this fight. This might be the fight that I'm most excited for on the entire card. Let's keep going up the card, though, to Phil Rowe versus Jake Matthews. How long has it been since we've seen Jake Matthews? Just 5 months ago, okay? I feel like I haven't seen Jake Matthews in a little while. But anyways, we have Phil Rowe coming fresh off of a split decision loss to Neil Magny, but I personally gave him this fight, but it was a close enough fight where I don't think it's right to complain. I don't think it was a robbery or anything. But anyways, Phil Rowe is a high-volume striker who does use his range very well. He also has some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to back it up. Jake Matthews, unfortunately, hasn't been able to put it together. He is a decent all-around fighter who doesn't really shine anywhere, but he can take the fight really anywhere. Jake Matthews, it is important to note, he's 19-7, but he has been put through the ringer for quite a few of opponents. Michael Morales, you have Darius Flowers, who wasn't that good, and then he had another fight over here. Andre Fialho, that one wasn't really good. Sean Brady, but even before that, Jake Matthews has taken on some of the toughest of the tough in the division, and he just can't put it together. He's 19-7. Record speaks for itself. Jake Matthews is a win-loss type fighter. I personally view Phil Rowe coming off of a 4-fight win streak. Now, guys, breaking this fight down, I believe this is one of those fights that can kind of be brought anywhere. It can be brought to the ground. It can be brought to the feet. The problem is there is a significant reach advantage over for Phil Rowe over here. He is like I said, he's a high-volume striker. He uses his range very well. When Phil Rowe has a reach advantage over you, that is something to take into consideration because Phil Rowe knows how to use his range, and he's very dangerous with his range. When these two step into the octagon, I have to lean towards Phil Rowe. He has all of the momentum on his side right now. Again, I'm looking at him like he won 4 fights in a row, and Jake Matthews can't put it together. Everybody was really high on him. Was it after the Andre Fialho fight? I think it was. It wasn't after the Darius Flowers fight. No, I think it was this one, Andre Fialho. Everybody was high on Jake Matthews, like, Jake Matthews is back. Yeah, it was, because he got the KO, right? I am having trouble remembering, but then he ended up losing his next fight, winning, and then losing again to Michael Morales. But even in Michael Morales is a good fighter. I think he's a tad overrated, but Morales was just getting the upper hand on most exchanges. It wasn't a bad performance. It was just a little bit underwhelming for Jake Matthews. So he can definitely hang with Phil Rowe. He can definitely win the fight. Don't get me wrong, but at the time that these two are at the point of these two in their careers right now, I have to give it to Phil Rowe. Again, I think that both guys are comparable in skill, but when it comes to the striking, Phil Rowe will be using his reach to his advantage in this fight big time. He's very good at it, and I'm going to be picking Phil Rowe to get the win over here. For who I hope gets the win, though, guys, I would like to see Jake Matthews to bounce back, though, to be honest with you. He's been, like I said, he's been put through the ringer of opponents throughout his entire career. He's only 29 years old. He can definitely bounce back. I would like to see that from him. But anyways, let's take a look at, oh my God, okay. Jake Matthews is the favorite over on OddsJam over here. Jake Matthews is the favorite. A little bit closer. It's getting a little bit towards a pick'em, but I don't hate it personally. I don't hate that. I don't completely disagree with that, but I am picking Phil Rowe to win. Perhaps I'll monitor that line and see if that's maybe an underdog opportunity we can go on. Stay tuned, by the way. We're going to have the complete betting guide out very, very soon in a couple days, a day or two. Let's keep going up the card, though, to Grant Dawson versus Joe Solecki. The return of Grant Dawson. How long has it been since Grant Dawson fought? 6 months ago, he got KO'd by Bobby Green. So, Grant Dawson. Has there been a guy as of recently that has had the fans completely turn on him the way that Grant Dawson did? Because a lot of people weren't that high on him in general. Well, people were high on him as a fighter, but people didn't really like Grant Dawson because of his fight style. I personally find it fascinating when a guy can control people on the ground, and I really, really started taking him seriously when he fought Damir Ismagulov, because I believe Damir Ismagulov is a very, very respectable opponent, and he had a very impressive performance against Damir Ismagulov. But then, Bobby Green. This fight was so weird that a lot of people thought it was staged. Bobby came in, Bobby KO'd him. It was just kind of the way he fell, I guess, right? But I don't think the fight was staged at all, don't get me wrong. But there was a little bit of controversy on that one. Regardless, Grant Dawson just coming fresh off of a KO. Grant Dawson is your grappler. He's a grappler, nothing more. He wants to take you down. He wants to control you. He can submit you. Joe Solecki, though, this is why it's a little bit of an interesting matchup, because Joe Solecki is a very good wrestler and grappler himself. On the feet, he does have some decent boxing, but he does ultimately want to move you forward and end up taking you down. That's Joe Solecki's game plan. So it's very interesting to see what happens when these two actually clash, because Joe Solecki, I do believe, is a very good grappler himself. I would give a little bit of the edge to Grant Dawson, but Joe Solecki could certainly hold his own. Joe Solecki coming off of a rough loss over Jakar Close, and yeah, that one wasn't too great, was it? Both guys are actually coming off of a really, really, really rough loss. And Joe Solecki's lost before. He knows what it's like to lose. He knows what it's like to have your momentum killed. But Grant Dawson, for the first time, after having a clear run in the UFC, is coming off of a really, really rough KO loss. You always got to think about how that changes a fighter. Some people bounce back. Some people look to just improve. Some people want to prove themselves again, but some people just lose their chin. Some people get a little bit gun shy. Some people don't want to get into a firefight. Grant Dawson doesn't necessarily ever want to get into a firefight, but you get the point. Grant Dawson might be a little bit, ooh, don't hit me, you know? Sometimes these fighters come out like that. I'm not saying that's going to happen to Grant Dawson. It's just something that I believe you need to take into consideration. So, these two are very, very comparable in size as well. They're very comparable in reach. They don't necessarily really use their reach all that much. This is another tough fight, and this is why this card's really great, guys. I don't know how Grant Dawson's going to come back from the knockout loss, but I'm not ready to count him out yet. I'm going to be picking Grant Dawson reluctantly. This is not a confident pick of mine, but I will be picking Grant Dawson for this video. I'm not ready to, like I said, I'm not ready to count him out yet. Joe Solecki can certainly hold up his own, but I believe this fight will probably go to the ground, and I think that Grant Dawson will have the edge over there. For who I hope wins, to be honest, guys, I don't really care. I like both guys. I'm just not really feeling a connection to either guy. Now, taking a look over at the betting side of things over on OddsJam, you can see that Joe Solecki is the underdog over here. To be honest with you, that makes kind of sense to me. Those are respectable lines. If you want to hit Grant Dawson, that's all the power to you, but I'm not ready to hit Grant Dawson yet myself. Let's keep going up the card, though, to the big return of Mickey Gall taking on Bassil Hafez. Now, I'm excited to see Bassil Hafez fight again after that Jack Della Maddalena fight, but Mickey Gall! I forgot about Mickey Gall being on the card, man, until I started putting it together over here. I'm excited to see Mickey Gall. I don't dislike Mickey Gall like a lot of people do. I think he's very exciting. I thought he was really fun, especially back in the day when he burst onto the scene. Mickey Gall made for a lot of fun once he was in the UFC, but unfortunately, he's 7-5. He has proved to, unfortunately, just be a grappler with very little cardio. Bassil Hafez, on the other hand, is a grappler as well, but he does have powerful, powerful hands behind it. He does a great job with control, picks his shots very, very well on the ground and pound, but sometimes, and is why it makes it a very interesting matchup, sometimes he also has a little bit of cardio issues. But I would say, if one fighter is if they were to race, Bassil Hafez would probably win that race. So keep that in mind. Both guys could actually just end up gassing out and then having a very, very sloppy fight. But for Bassil Hafez, he came in and fought Jack Della Maddalena on short notice, and he made it to a split decision. A lot of people felt that he won this fight. I personally gave it to Jack Della Maddalena, but it was close enough to not complain either way, in my opinion. Bassil Hafez is a very, very exciting prospect. I can't wait to see what he does in the division, but the problem is he's taking on Mickey Gall, who hasn't fought in 2 years. He hasn't fought in 2 years. He's been doing nothing but losing both to Mike Malott and Alex Morono. Now, at the time, these losses were good to have at the time, but they haven't all aged that well. But regardless, his only win was against Jordan Williams and Sam Tulardi. Now, make of that what you will. He lost to anybody, I don't want to say of significance, but he lost to anybody that he started taking a little bit of a step up in competition against. Now, Mickey Gall, I want Mickey Gall to win, but 2 years off, returning to the octagon, I can't expect Mickey Gall to be different. Bassil Hafez took on Jack Della Maddalena. A lot of people thought that he won against Jack Della Maddalena. And Jack Della Maddalena, look what he's done in the division. Jack Della Maddalena is a fantastic fighter in himself. He's a very, very proven fighter. And Bassil Hafez could hang with him. So I got to think that no matter what, Bassil Hafez will get the win over here unless he gasses out before Mickey Gall. Because again, both guys have had their gas tank issues. And when you're talking about betting, you can never trust a guy with a gas tank issue. Both guys have a gas tank issue. That's a little bit of a problem. Excuse me, I'm still a little bit under the weather over here. Sorry, my laugh gets a little bit weird, but I'm excited for this fight in general, man. I'm going to be picking Bassil Hafez. I can't trust Mickey Gall's cardio. I can't trust Mickey Gall's determination. I can't trust him coming back after 2 years. But honestly, I hope Mickey Gall gets it done. I really like Mickey Gall. I think he's fun, and he reminds me of a little bit of the golden era of the UFC, to be honest. Let's take a look at what OddsJam has to say about it. You can see Bassil Hafez is almost a 3-1 favorite. Mickey Gall at an underdog odds. You could play him to get a submission, Mickey Gall, but I still don't think it's going to happen. Bassil Hafez is a very respectable grappler himself. I think that's proper odds. I hope Mickey Gall can get the job done, but I unfortunately don't think that he will. Let's keep going up the card too. Joselyne Edwards taking on Ailin Perez Fiona. I always forget that's her nickname. Anyways, guys, I don't have a lot to say about this fight. You have Joselyne Edwards, who's your typical WMMA fighter, a little bit sloppy, nothing special to her, and you have Ailin Perez, who's pretty much, I don't want to say she's just in the UFC for the way she looks and the way she behaves, but she does have more heart, I will say, than a lot of people in the division. She's primarily a grappler. She does well offensively, but again, nothing shines about Ailin Perez. Nothing really excites me about Ailin Perez, right? The only thing that is a little bit strange about Ailin Perez is her most recent performance, because Perez dominated this fight in the first 2 rounds, getting, in my opinion, that they could be 10-8 rounds, both rounds 1 and 2, but then she gassed out. You always got to worry about that, just like I was talking about with Mickey Gall, just like I was talking about with Bassil Hafez. You can't trust a fighter who gasses out, but then again, the output that she had was, it wasn't even that crazy, man. It wasn't even that crazy. So we haven't seen Ailin Perez really gas out as hard as she did in her last fight. So that's something new to break down with Ailin Perez. But Joselyne Edwards is just your typical WMMA fighter. She's sloppy. She can't finish her opponents. Like, she had a nice 3-fight win streak, but then she lost to Nora Cornell. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not interested in this fight personally, and this fight is probably going to go over round and a half. That's probably the bet that I'm going to place, but I'm going to pick Ailin Perez because she is just, here's your bar for the division. Oh, my camera's covering it. I'll just do this. Sorry, guys. Still getting used to those buttons. Here's the bar for the division, and like, here's Ailin Perez. That's kind of why I'm picking her over here. That's how I feel about this fight. So I'm going to be picking Ailin Perez. She does better offensively. She has the wrestling. I think she'll get by Joselyne Edwards. But let's take a look at the betting side of things. Ailin Perez, oh my God, Ailin Perez is a big favorite. Big favorite. So they're seeing what I'm seeing over here. And don't, the odds makers aren't blinded by what you see online, right? You aren't blinded by Ailin Perez's Instagram, right? Get some standards, people. Now, guys, before we dive into the main card, I do want to pause the video for just a second. If you are interested in either supporting the channel or if you're interested in seeing what I am personally betting on, because again, I talk a lot about betting on this channel. If you're interested to see my official bets every single Thursday or Friday before the UFC or MMA events, sometimes I bet on Bellator. I like to bet on LFA, One Championship. I will be posting a members-only video. They are mostly live on Thursday, but they can be live on Friday as well, explaining my bets, my confidence levels, how much money I'm placing on them. If you're interested to see what I am going to be betting on, or just supporting the channel. Check out the channel membership. It is right next to the subscribe button. It's in the description. Pin comment down below. It is very cheap compared to other channels. Thank you very, very much for your consideration and for listening to me right now. The members have been helping me out so much, so I really, really appreciate you. Also, in the pin comment and the description down below, you will find a link to OddsJam. If you follow my link and use code Clenbat, OddsJam is a fantastic, fantastic tool. Just to go back to what I'm using right now, I like using it to monitor odds. You can see it on all these different sports books. This is where OddsJam really shines, but it has so many more tools in general. You can find it in the links in the pin comment and description down below. You can use my link over to OddsJam. If you want to sign up, you can get a discount using code Clenbat. Check it out, guys. Thank you very much for listening. Let's get into the main card. Starting off the main card, guys, we have Kevin Holland returning to the middleweight division, taking on Michael Oleksiejczuk. And guys, I actually think it's a little bit of a winnable fight for Kevin Holland over here because Kevin Holland, man, Kevin Holland has not been able to put together like a few fighters that we've been talking about as of recently. He dropped down to the welterweight division and looked really, really good aside from the Stephen Thompson fight, of course, but he beat Santiago Ponzinibbio, he beat Michael Chiesa, but those wins have not necessarily aged well at all. He took on a little bit better competition in Jack Della Maddalena, lost a split decision, but he did not look good in this fight, and Michael Venom Page completely 100% styled on him. It was a complete mismatch. He looked like crap in this fight. And I was really quick to always sit back and say, well, it looked like Kevin Holland doesn't care. It looked like Kevin Holland wasn't trying. I believe Kevin Holland is better than this, but he actually got styled on so bad. So bad in his last fight. And honestly, guys, I think the UFC is giving him a little bit of layup over here. I'm not saying Michael Oleksiejczuk is a bad fighter at all. Don't get me wrong. But Michael Oleksiejczuk, he can finish you. He can get finished. And Kevin Holland isn't necessarily a guy who you finish. Kevin Holland is a guy who you beat by decision like Wonderboy does or like Michael Venom Page does, right? But Michael Oleksiejczuk, he also hasn't been able to put it together. He's had some good wins. He's had some losses. He's taken on really tough competition. So Michael Oleksiejczuk is certainly better than his 19-7 record, and he can certainly win the fight. Kevin Holland is back at middleweight, and Kevin Holland really had a nice size advantage over at welterweight, but the height's going to be similar, but Kevin Holland is still going to have an insane reach advantage, and Kevin Holland uses that reach really well. When these two match up, I would imagine this is going to be one of those fights where Kevin Holland can look like the Kevin Holland of old. He can use his range well, pop the shots perfectly, catch him at the end of his punches, and knock Michael Oleksiejczuk out. But the problem is, Kevin Holland, I can't trust him anymore. I can't trust him. Is Kevin Holland going to show up? Is he going to play games? Is he going to come in there like it's a sparring match and just collect a paycheck? I can't trust him anymore. I'm done trusting Kevin Holland, and I'm going to be picking Michael Oleksiejczuk for that reason. Kevin Holland might show up and just start blocking a little bit and throwing a little pitter-patter shots instead of throwing the snappy 1-2 we all know he's so good at. We know he's capable of winning. It's kind of like Darren Tilley's turning into, man, where not that bad, but you know he has all the potential in the world. Kelvin Gastelum, he has all the potential in the world and just doesn't put it together, doesn't discipline himself. I'm done betting on Kevin Holland for that reason. I mean, I'm not saying like actually putting my money on Kevin Holland, but I'm done picking Kevin Holland. I'm done having faith in Kevin Holland. He doesn't look like he wants to be in there anymore. It doesn't look like he's ready to take the shots anymore. It looks like he just wants to come in there, collect a paycheck, get a cheer from the crowd, and kind of just shrug it off when he loses. That's why I'm going to be picking Michael Oleksiejczuk. I know that's not necessarily a technical breakdown, but that is what I will be picking personally. For who I hope to win, I'm conflicted because I'm a fan of Kevin Holland. I like him a lot. I think he's hilarious. I think he's great for the UFC. But I would also like to see Michael Oleksiejczuk get a win because he has been put through the ringer of opponents and hasn't necessarily been able to put it together as of recently. So I would like to see him get a win here. So it's going to be one of those fights where it's just really sad to see somebody lose either way. But then again, is it really that sad if Kevin Holland just doesn't show up? I don't know. Now, it is important to note for some reason, guys, OddsJam doesn't have odds on this fight right now. So I don't know what the odds are right now. I'm recording this the Wednesday night before you are actually seeing this. Let's keep going up the card, though, to Randy Brown versus Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. Excuse me. It's a long name, but I think for some reason he's just going by Elizeu Zaleski. Regardless, it doesn't really matter. We have Randy Brown, who has been on a very quiet roll. He is a tall and long striker who uses his speed and range extremely well. Sometimes he can also surprise his opponents with takedowns and sneaky good jiu-jitsu. You have Elizeu Zaleski, who is an all-round fighter who is pretty decent everywhere, doesn't exactly shine anywhere, kind of like a Jake Matthews type fighter, but I would say he's a little bit better than Jake Matthews. Anyways, you have Randy Brown, who, like I just said, is coming off of a very sneaky little win streak, but the Jack Della Maddalena submission was a little bit of a rough loss in there, but he has put it back together against Wellington Turman and Muslim Salikov, and in my opinion, those are very good wins to have. Very, very good wins to have, and he looked good in both of his fights. Elizeu Zaleski, I don't know why I'm having such problems saying that, and I'm just not necessarily too impressed by his wins over here because you have the Renat Fakhretdinov majority decision, and he looked like crap against Abubakar Nurmagomedov. In my opinion, that was a complete robbery. Now, somehow, the Benoit Saint-Denis fight ended up looking really, really good, but regardless, it doesn't really matter. That was over 2 years ago, and it seems like, I don't know, Elizeu Zaleski can beat anybody at any point. He's a very good fighter in himself. I'm just surprised at some of his wins, and he is kind of sneaking by on these last two over here, but when these two actually match up, I think that Randy Brown will use his reach to his advantage over here. Randy Brown is going to be one of my confident picks on the card. I am picking Randy Brown to win this fight, like I just said. Elizeu Zaleski is 37 years old, pushing 38 years old. Randy Brown has been looking great in his last two fights. It's not like he's looking like some world killer, but Randy Brown has been quietly winning, and I've liked what I've seen from him so far. Very simple breakdown. I think this will remain on the feet, and I think Randy Brown will just outstrike him to a victory. And I think this will... I think this will be a little bit of a subpar excitement level fight. I just think Randy Brown's going to get it done, man. I think Randy Brown's going to get it done. I hope Randy Brown gets it done. I like Randy Brown, like watching him, and I'm probably going to be placing a bet on Randy Brown. Now for the odds, which is very, very interesting, you have Randy Brown sitting at barely a favorite over here. That's definitely one that I will think about targeting because I think Randy Brown should be a little bit of a sizable favorite in this matchup. Let me know what you think down below. Let's move up the main card, though, to the return of Jailton Almeida, everybody's favorite fighter, and he's taking on Alexander Romanov. So Jailton Almeida is a strong grappler who will do anything to dive at your legs and get the fight to the ground. Alexander Romanov is also a ground fighter. He is a huge, massive wrestler who just wants to take you down and let some ground and pound go. So this will be an interesting clash when these two actually come about and try to get to the ground. So Jailton Almeida looked great in his career. He had his first heavyweight fight against Jairzinho Rozenstruik, looked okay there. Derek Lewis did nothing in that entire fight, and then the Curtis Blaydes fight. I'm still so proud about that call, by the way, because I was sitting here and saying, I don't know what everybody is saying. Curtis Blaydes is going to destroy this guy, and I was like the only one saying that. I'm very proud of that, by the way. But anyways, Jailton Almeida showed that he had some problems when he fought somebody as big and as strong as Curtis Blaydes because Jairzinho Rozenstruik and Derek Lewis didn't really give him that much opposition, and Curtis Blaydes is just a massive, massive, strong guy. Blaydes was constantly getting up whenever Jailton Almeida tried to take it down, and when Jailton Almeida went for a takedown in the second round, Curtis Blaydes just ended up pounding him. And I can actually see the same thing kind of happening to Alexander Romanov. Now, Alexander Romanov is coming off of two hiccups against Marcin Tybura and Alexander Volkov. The Volkov loss makes a lot of sense, but then he got a nice win. Well, I mean, not nice, but he did nothing and somehow won against Blagoy Ivanov. But Alexander Romanov is going to be a huge mass in that octagon. He is 265 pounds. I don't know what he's going to be weighing on fight night, but Jailton Almeida weighs in at 241. I could see the same issue coming into play against Alexander Romanov because he is significantly bigger than both Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I don't want to say significantly bigger than Jairzinho Rozenstruik and Derek Lewis. Forget about that one. Derek Lewis just decided he didn't feel like being there that day, and I don't understand how he has been a UFC fighter. He just goes on about his power. So I can see the same problem happening with Curtis Blaydes. Jailton Almeida trying to take him down, but the weight and the strength ends up being a problem because Alexander Romanov is massive. He is massive. Now, what Jailton Almeida will have over Alexander Romanov and what he didn't have over Curtis Blaydes is cardio. I think Jailton Almeida will be able to continue pushing Alexander Romanov until he actually gets him to the ground. But I see a window of opportunity for Alexander Romanov to kind of transition, sweep Jailton Almeida, try to get some aggression going from his own end, and get Jailton Almeida to the ground. I believe Alexander Romanov will win this fight. I don't think Jailton Almeida is... I don't want to say he's not built for heavyweight, but he's not as big as some of these guys like Alexander Romanov. I think that Jailton Almeida is a better fighter than Alexander Romanov, but I think the mass will play into effect just like it did in the Curtis Blaydes fight, and I'm going to be picking Alexander Romanov to win this fight. For who I hope wins, I hope Alexander wins. I hope King Kong gets it done. I'm also not a fan of Jailton Almeida's fighting style. He, especially after the Derek Lewis fight, just left me a bad taste in my mouth. Now, interesting. Sorry, wrong button over there. Alexander Romanov is a pretty big favorite. Have we not learned our lesson yet from Curtis Blaydes? Have we not learned? Because the same odds were over here for Curtis Blaydes, eh? Look at those odds again. I might just play my chances with Jailton Almeida, but I don't know. I'm not necessarily too confident in that pick, but I really don't mind Alexander Romanov as an underdog here. Let's move on to the co-main event, though, guys. We have Sean Strickland taking on Paulo Costa. I still don't believe that Paulo Costa will be in that octagon until I see him in the octagon, but hey, what can you say? So Sean Strickland, of course, we all know Sean Strickland. He is a boxer with great cardio. Paulo Costa is a very tough and strong kickboxer with some BJJ to back it up that we rarely see. Anyways, Sean Strickland is coming off of one of the greatest runs ever, that being against Nassourdine Imavov, Abus Magomedov, and then Israel Adesanya. And of course, I'm one of those people that believe it was a robbery against Dricus du Plessis. He lost a robbery split decision in this one. I'm not going to get into that. I was thinking about getting into where that was, but then, yeah, I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to touch it. Sorry, guys. He was looking perfect in the first little bit of this fight. And I think here's something that not a lot of people talk about, okay? He was using his jab. That's not what I was going to be talking about, but his jab was one of the greatest of all time in this entire time. But he was able to make it more chaotic as the fight went on, but this is where it ended up getting a little bit close, is when the fight ended up getting a little bit chaotic. So I actually believe that he ended up losing some of the chaotic exchanges because he got a really bad cut over his eye and he wasn't able to see. I don't see a lot of people talking about that. I believe that's one of the reasons why the Dricus du Plessis fight was close, because he was piecing up Dricus du Plessis, and I think he could have done that for 5 rounds just like he did against Israel Adesanya. Regardless, I still think he won this fight, and I see Sean Strickland still as a middleweight champion and on a 4-fight win streak. Paulo Costa, though. Paulo Costa hasn't been able to put together as of recently. He's been very, very inactive. He got a nice win over Luke Rockhold, but that says absolutely nothing. Now, the Robert Whittaker performance just 2 months ago, it was very telling for Paulo Costa because he actually looked really good in this fight. He looked really, really good. Robert Whittaker just hit him more often. He still has fast kicks. He's still very tough, and he's proven that he has not lost a step at 33 years old. He's proven that he wants to be in the octagon. He's proven that he didn't just come in and not care like the Marvin Vettori fight, but then again, he even looked okay in the Marvin Vettori fight. The point is, Paulo Costa is still a force to be reckoned with in the middleweight division. What happens when these two match up? Whew. I've been back and forth on this one, guys. I really, really have. On one hand, I can see Sean Strickland just pitter-pattering Paulo Costa over to decision, but Paulo Costa's tough. I can see Paulo Costa walking forward. I can see Paulo Costa kind of doing this. I can see Paulo Costa having a lot of success with his body kicks. He has such powerful, lethal body kicks, and Sean Strickland, with his guard up so high like this, his liver is typically open for the shot that Paulo Costa likes to land. I'm just saying, I could also see, I could see a world where Sean Strickland, like I said, pitter-patters him to a decision, just uses that fantastic jab that he has, and I can also see Paulo Costa out-toughing him. I can see Paulo Costa walking through Sean Strickland's jab. I can see Paulo Costa really digging to the body. I can see Paulo Costa really using that liver kick to have some success over here. I'm not ready to count Paulo Costa out, guys. I've been back and forth on this fight myself, and I believe the vast majority of people are picking Sean Strickland, but I'm not picking against Paulo Costa over here. I believe this should be a 50-50 fight. Oh, man. I think this should be a pick'em fight, guys. I think it should. I can see both guys winning. Am I crazy for saying that Paulo Costa is going to be my pick? He's going to be my pick. Just for the video, guys. Just know that this is just strictly for the video because I believe this should be a 50-50 fight and I have to make a pick for the video. So anyways, Paulo Costa is going to be the official pick. Certainly not betting on this fight. For who I want to win, I like both guys, dude. I like both guys. I don't want to see either one lose. But anyways, let's take a look at the odds over here. And it's very close. Very close. You have Paulo Costa sitting at almost a 2-1 favorite on some sports books. And Sean Strickland sitting around a -190 to -210. I'm interested to see where that line will go. Because, again, I'm not ready to count out Paulo Costa. And I think that his chances of winning are a lot better than people are giving him credit for. All right, guys. You ready to hear me yap? You ready to hear me yap? Let's move on to the main event. Let's talk about Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier. I'll start with this, okay? I'm going to break down the fight, okay? I'm going to break down the fight. My gut is telling me that Dustin Poirier is going to get it done. My gut's telling me that. My brain's telling me that's stupid. My brain's telling me that's stupid. I don't know if it's just me really wanting Dustin Poirier to win, but let's get into it. Islam Makhachev. We all know Islam Makhachev, a very, very complete fighter. Everybody talks about him as a sambo wrestler, but Islam Makhachev is a very, very good striker in himself. He has been perfect throughout his UFC career so far, with one little hiccup at the beginning of his career. He has dominated everybody. He's dominated a prime Charles Oliveira. He beat a prime Alexander Volkanovski, and then he beat an Alexander Volkanovski on the couch, which doesn't really mean that much, but these two wins in themselves prove that Islam Makhachev is the pound-for-pound #1 fighter in the world. Dustin Poirier is coming off of, shockingly, a win-loss last 5 fights, because Conor McGregor, he won. He lost to Charles Oliveira. Michael Chandler, he beat. Lost to Justin Gaethje. And now he beat Benoit Saint-Denis. But honestly, guys, let's talk about this Benoit Saint-Denis win, because he was getting completely outworked both on the feet and on the ground. He was getting completely outworked. And the only reason he won is because Saint-Denis got carried away and swung with him in the dirty boxing against the fence. And the fight IQ wasn't here. He kept going for the guillotine. That's why you're seeing a lot of memes by Dustin Poirier winning against Islam Makhachev by guillotine. And Benoit Saint-Denis clearly had staff in that fight. He clearly started to gas out. He clearly tried to go for a finish. So I believe that Dustin Poirier I really do believe he got a little bit of a fluke win in this fight against Benoit Saint-Denis. I do. It is important to note, though, in this fight, too, and I know I'm talking about this one fight in particular because that was only a month ago. That was only over a month ago. And this is the Dustin Poirier that we're probably going to see against Islam Makhachev. For some reason, straight from the get-go, he didn't look like himself. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was age, damage, or just an off night. He was breathing heavy like a minute in. And the Dustin Poirier that fought Benoit Saint-Denis is not the Dustin Poirier that I've been watching for years. I don't know what it was. Again, could be age, could be damage, could be hunger. I don't know. Could have been an off night. Everybody has an off night. I don't think the Dustin Poirier that we're used to seeing showed up against Benoit Saint-Denis, but I also think it was a little bit of a fluke win, okay? Now, when these two match up, I think Islam's better everywhere. I have got a lot of comments recently on a couple shorts that I made saying that Islam Makhachev could knock out Dustin Poirier. I believe that could be the case. I believe Islam Makhachev has very, very talented and perfect striking. A lot of people are sleeping on Islam Makhachev's striking. Could Dustin Poirier knock out Islam Makhachev? Absolutely he can. But Islam Makhachev could also knock out Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier was knocked out recently. Dustin Poirier is 35 years old, almost 36 years old. He can get knocked out. Dustin Poirier is not completely untouchable. He was just knocked out how long ago? 9 months ago by Justin Gaethje. Islam Makhachev can knock him out. I don't understand this entire thing where it's if Islam Makhachev decides to box with Dustin Poirier, he's done. Dustin Poirier can have success, but Islam Makhachev is a very good striker in himself. I think Islam Makhachev has all of the tools to win in this fight. I think that, guys, I could see Dustin Poirier jumping a guillotine just to try to do it, just because he's that guy. He wants to try to do it. And I could see Islam Makhachev just beating him the way Khabib did. I could also see Islam Makhachev just outstriking him. I could see it, Islam Makhachev is a very complete and perfect fighter. This guy beat Prime Oliveira and Prime Alexander Volkanovski. He can beat Prime Dustin Poirier. That's pretty much all you really have to look at. He can take the fight to the ground. He can keep it on the feet. Islam Makhachev can do anything. He's in his prime. He's been looking great. Dustin Poirier, or how long has Islam Makhachev been taking this fight or thinking about training for this fight? I don't know. Dustin Poirier just fought Benoit Saint-Denis over a month ago. It's all set up for him to lose. But I will say, and this is the reason why a little bit of my gut is telling me that Dustin Poirier is going to win. We all know, and I think this is something we need to take into consideration, okay? We all know this is Dustin Poirier's last chance. We all know how bad Dustin Poirier wants to become a champion. We all know it. We're all going to be cheering for Dustin Poirier. I would imagine the crowd is going to be all over Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier thrives off the crowd. Dustin Poirier will be hungry like never before. Dustin Poirier, as much as I disagree with him doing this, he's bringing his daughter in the front row. He will have his family there. His daughter is going to be there for the first time watching him. He wants to show her that you can accomplish your dreams. Can that fall flat on your face? Yes, absolutely. But that definitely will give him an extra push. For the fans cheering Dustin Poirier, for the fans giving him all the hype during the walkout, if Dustin Poirier finds himself on the ground, maybe he can have one of those moments where he just looks at his family and just gets up. And Dustin Poirier is that guy where I actually believe that he can do this. But the problem is, how long can he do this for? Again, he's 35 years old. He's taken a lot of damage over his career, and he's fighting the pound-for-pound best #1 guy. Is that enough to get the win? Part of me is, for some reason, guys, my gut's saying Dustin can get it done. My gut's just telling me that. Maybe it's just me really hoping for that. But Islam Makhachev should win this fight. I believe Islam Makhachev will win this fight. My brain is telling me that Islam Makhachev is the better fighter everywhere, and he will win this fight. Let's take a look at the betting side of things over on OddsJam. Islam Makhachev sitting at a minus 450, minus 560 favorite over on is it Bet Rivers over there? Regardless, I'm putting on the wrong thing again. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm still getting used to these buttons. But you can see Dustin Poirier is a huge favorite. You have round lines over here too. So over 1.5, under 2.5, over 1.5 or 2.5. I don't like those personally for this fight. This one I'm probably just going to stay away from. Now, for who I hope wins this fight, guys, I hope Dustin Poirier gets it done. I've had my fair share of memeing on Dustin Poirier, and I don't necessarily really... I don't, love Dustin Poirier. I'm not a huge fan of Dustin Poirier or anything, but what a close to a Hall of Fame career that would be. A guy who has fought against adversity, lost against the title twice. He'd put together a win streak, lose again. What a story that would be. I would love to see those Rihanna TikToks, those memes of shine bright tonight, you and I, and Dustin Poirier piecing up Islam against the fence. You're beautiful like diamonds in the sky. And then he gets to the finish. That would be that would be one of the greatest story fairy tale endings in MMA and UFC history. That would be probably the most wholesome moment, again, in UFC history. I hope Dustin Poirier can get the job done. And honestly, I'm a fan of Islam Makhachev too. It's just, I would love to see Dustin Poirier close out his career with a final title win. Guys, that's going to be it for the card. Let me know what you thought about all the fights down below. Thank you very much for watching. Check out the video on screen right now if you'd like to continue watching the channel. I will see you over there, everybody. Take care.